The end of May is the top of the roller coaster. We have got through the toughest part of the climb of the offseason, and things are about to pick up speed. This is the Podcast Daily. It is Freaky Friday. It is the end of May. He's Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. Welcome in. Berm, we've got kickoff times. We talked about gambling lines on Thursday. It just feels to me like we're almost there, baby.
Yeah, this offseason has been quick, I think. I mean, I know that we've at times struggled for things to talk about in this show because we don't want to just rehash the same things over and over again, but sometimes you have to in order to get through the offseason. But we are one day away from the start of June, recruiting camps, official visit season. We are 1 month away now. I mean, 1 month from Big Ten Media Days. Like, it's here. The season is here.
Yeah, not really. I hear everyone out there saying, hey, there's still 3 months to go till the opener, but we do know when that game is going to be played on August 31st against Akron, and it is a 3:30 kickoff, Berm. I think I've been a bit of a curmudgeon. Oh, you're going to be that on this show. I think that's the perfect time. Like, what? You don't have everyone that doesn't like the noon kickoffs, okay, you've avoided that. It's not night, which there is going to be one during the non-conference slate for Ohio State. I feel like 3:30 is a great time. You get plenty of tailgate opportunities for us. Like, we don't have to even be up early to drive down High Street at 8 a.m. Like, sign me up for a season opener, 3:30 Akron on CBS.
No, I'm fine with that. 3:30 for a season opener is perfect. If we're talking about a MAC game at the end of September, I think noon is necessary. But for the season opener, for all of the pomp and circumstance and all the celebration, you want to give people time to get loose and get a little bit into the sauce on that day and make sure that Ohio Stadium is rocking. And a noon game against Akron at the September 1st or August 31st, whatever day it is. I don't know how days work anymore. A noon game does not have the prerequisite amount of juice, and so the 3:30 game does give it time to get a bit juicier. I'm for it in this instance.
I was a little bit surprised to see it, but then I remembered when you have these three broadcast partners and major networks, the 3:30 window is going to have a little bit more juice to it with CBS coming aboard. So once I spent a couple seconds thinking of it, yes, it's obviously not going to be worthy of big noon on Fox, but CBS and NBC are then going to be fighting over any opportunity that they can possibly grab to show Ohio State, which is the biggest draw in the sport and certainly in the Big Ten, which they've now invested a ton of money to be part of investing in that league and grabbing hold of Buckeyes games. So I felt like I was surprised, but then I quickly realized I shouldn't be. CBS wanting to put a week one game with Ohio State on their airwaves at 3:30 made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I think what's actually interesting, maybe it's not interesting to anybody but me or you. I mean, when you're talking about TV and NBC, and like NBC has been so dictated to by, or it has dictated Notre Dame's schedule in so many ways over the last couple dozens of years. Like, Notre Dame was always having like that strange 1:30 kickoff, and like I don't think they'll have any more of that. So I think NBC actually has to like hop in line with the rest of ABC and CBS now and ESPN to actually have the Big Ten on at the normal time. So I guess there's a little side victory for the Big Ten there, because no more 1:30 games on Saturday.
Okay. Not quite as much of a victory in terms of kickoff times. I don't know. For night game fans, you get your wish. You've got one of those guaranteed in the horseshoe, but it's going to be week 2. It's going to be September 7th against Western Michigan, because the BTN network, that's a little redundant, BTN still exists, and it still needs to show football games, and so it has grabbed Ohio State in a less appealing matchup. That game will be 7:30 in the horseshoe in week 2. Those are the two confirmed times there for September. The third one, of course, is going to be Michigan. We already know that. That's big noon at the end of November. Are you as enthused to see that game in week 2 in a primetime window, Berm?
No, not really. I'm a big fan of night games at Ohio Stadium. I think that they're an awesome experience for fans, for recruits. The players seem to love it. I hope that they will allow Ohio State to do something creative with uniforms, because again, recruits and fans seem to really love that. But if you look at the schedule, you've got, if the Western Michigan game's at night, we fully expect that Michigan State will be at night up there in East Lansing. Oregon will probably end up being a big noon kickoff, right? I mean, that would make sense.
But that would be
Is Ohio State's only other
nine in
night
the
game?
morning.
Yeah, that's true.
Surely they're not going to. I mean, I think Fox would want it, but surely there's no way they would play that game at 9 in the morning.
I certainly hope not. So, okay, so let's put that one at night. So we've got night games potentially: Western Michigan, Michigan State, Oregon. Probably Ohio State hosting Nebraska, an October 26th game at night. I would imagine that one will be a Halloween night game. No?
Nope. That game is guaranteed to be at either noon or 3:30.
Why?
For homecoming purposes. I assume that Ohio State made that request. I don't know. The network has not been determined officially for that game, but I can tell you for sure that game will be at either noon or 3:30. And the Northwestern game in Wrigley Field will also be at noon or 3:30.
Well, that's November 16th, so they're not allowed to have the night game that late, right? Unless both teams agree. So Penn State, November 2nd, maybe at night. I don't know. Penn State has traditionally become the big noon kickoff game, but are we only getting 2 Ohio State night games this year? Maybe 3?
Seems that way. I know that frustrates you.
Only one at home? It's just it just doesn't help the recruiting side of things. And I generally look at things from how do you sell the experience to recruits? Ohio State avoids doing a lot of official visits during the regular season because they know that they don't have time to really connect with players and their families during the official visits. And so they want the game day experience that these guys come into the town for and across the country for to be electric and exciting. And it is a pretty good, all things considered, I mean, not a terrible home schedule. As we talked about on Thursday, the Iowa game will be a good game. Nebraska will be a fun game, I imagine. Purdue, meh, and Indiana, meh, and obviously Michigan. So I just look at it and say, when do we get to celebrate the spectacle of football in Ohio Stadium, the cathedral on the banks of the Olentangy? How much celebrating can we do at noon against Nebraska?
Yeah, I tend to think I don't want to rehash everything that I said on Thursday about the Iowa game, but when I went through the way it's set up and tried to figure out which games would be fit for primetime, I kind of felt like NBC would be looking to grab Ohio State and Iowa. And I think especially now that we know for sure that Nebraska will be not in primetime. That would have been a logical contender to go side by side with that. To me, I think you should probably anticipate that's not going to be big noon in my mind. CBS has made a play here to get Ohio State locked in early into that 3:30 window. I think the quality of the game is better than it seems, and NBC is going to want to have Ohio State in primetime without question. That's what they're paying for. So I'm sort of putting a little pencil mark around that game as an opportunity for you to see a night banger, Berm.
Yeah, that week is also Michigan, Washington, Auburn, Georgia. Not a lot around the country. Clemson, Florida State. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that one being a night game. I'm fine with an early October night game. I mean, I'll sign me up for it. I actually, from a working standpoint, we've talked so much in the past about how we prefer noon games, but, it is really about the experience for the fans, and the night games are just way better than noon games.
Yeah, of course, if they asked us, or if they asked me, I think you like having one or two, especially in the horseshoe. If it was up to me, and good thing it's not, I would never play primetime games because I hate them. They're the worst. And I don't like leaving the stadium into the wee hours and not having people be able to watch Snap Judgments brought to you by Buyers Auto until after 12:30. That's not cool. But again, it is not up to me. We know that those are the 3 definitive kickoff times for Ohio State. 2 have been narrowed down with Northwestern and Nebraska. You can start to make some plans for that. And the other thing that is going to pick up a little bit of speed as we head into June, and that will speed up the process of the offseason. Berm, camp start next week, and visit season has arrived for Ohio State. What's on tap for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes there?
10 official visits. We talked about it on Talking Stuff on Wednesday, but just to rehash, I mean, obviously you have 2 commitments coming into town. TJ Alford, a linebacker from Florida. You have Deshaun Stewart, a defensive back / safety from New Jersey. Those will be the only commitments making their official visits. You have 6 offensive players that are varying degrees of priority for Ohio State, but at the top of that list is 5-star wide receiver DeCorian Moore, Bo Jackson, a running back from Cleveland, whose name, I mean, I've talked about this. I don't know if I talked about it on an episode of Talking Stuff or not. His real name is Lamar. Like, he goes by Bo, but his real name is Lamar. So either way, Bo Jackson is losing.
That's a tough standard either way.
Yeah.
You're either going to have to be compared to an NFL MVP or someone that maybe the younger generation doesn't quite remember, but anyone our age remembering Bo Jackson and what he could do so special, like maybe that's it. Lamar is too recent. And he had to, so he's like, maybe less people know Bo Jackson.
Yeah, you can play Tecmo Super Bowl on your phone now, and if you are savvy enough to figure out how to do that, for anybody in the younger generation, download that game and play as Bo Jackson, and you'll understand why that name is so terrifying for everyone in our generation. You got Bo Jackson coming in. He's the lone running back. I think it actually presents a pretty interesting weekend for Carlos Lachlan. The Buckeyes want 3 running backs in this class. They have a number of official visits happening and probably 6 guys at the top of their list that I think they would accept a commitment from today if any one of those 6 decided to. But they're separated. The official visitors are separated so that each guy gets their own weekend. And for Bo Jackson, who's the lone guy really from Ohio in that conversation right now, it's an opportunity for Ohio State and Ryan Day specifically to show him how much of a priority he is for them. It was not always the case with Bo Jackson. When Tony Alford had a little bit different pecking order inside of the state and seemed to prefer Marquise Davis, the running back from Cleveland Heights, who's now committed to Kentucky. And when Alford left and Carlos Lachlan picked up the reins, it seems like at that point, Ohio State really turned up the heat on Bo, but that has allowed Georgia, who's already taken an official visit with, and Alabama to get in the mix. And so we'll see what happens there. I still think he'll end up at Ohio State, but it is an important weekend for them there. Vernell Brown, a 4-star wide receiver from Orlando. He's a 2-time Florida legacy. Both his father and his grandfather were Gators. Like Florida, Florida State, Miami were all basically playing catch up to Ohio State over the last 2 months. A lot of people nationally think that they have caught up and maybe surpassed Ohio State. So for Brian Hartline, this is a pretty key weekend with Vernell Brown, DeCorian Moore, as I said, the number 1 receiver in the country, and another 4-star receiver, Dalen McCutcheon, who was a high school teammate of Peyton Pierce at Lovejoy High School in Lucas, Lucas, Texas? No, Lovejoy, Texas, Lucas High School, right?
Flip it.
Here in Texas. It's Lovejoy High School in Lucas, Texas? Lucas Lovejoy. Lovejoy Lucas. I think it's Lucas Lovejoy.
You've covered all the bases. We got it.
So 2 offensive linemen. We've got Caden Strayhorn, a Michigan State legacy, originally from the Michigan area, who plays at the IMG Academy in Florida, and Henry Fanuco, a very high ceiling interior lineman / swing guy who can play some tackle, but he's really raw to football, starting to really move up the national rankings because he's 6'5", 300 pounds, and a soccer player. And I know you love those guys that have the footwork. That he's a freaky type of athlete. I think I probably have him as the most likely to be on commitment watch this coming weekend if Ohio State's going to add one. So I don't know that I would expect that, but if I had to put a totem pole of who's at the top of it, most likely to commit this weekend, it'd be Fanuco. Defensively, only 2 other players other than the 2 commits, and that's defensive end / linebacker Justin Hill from Cincinnati Winton Woods, who is my pick is probably the most important visitor of the weekend because the Buckeyes had been working uphill with Oregon and Alabama, really having a slight advantage because of their defensive scheme, and now trying to figure out a way to showcase to Justin exactly how the Buckeyes would use him in their defense that doesn't deploy the jack position very often, which is what he's actually pretty much custom built for. And then linebacker Riley Pettijohn from McKinney, Texas, who outside of TJ Alford, who's already committed, Riley has probably been and the top target on the board for James Laurinaitis throughout this cycle at linebacker. And he is undoubtedly the top priority as far as the uncommitted players at that position. So it's a nice, like, slow build weekend. When the next couple weekends, you'll see 14, 15, 16 guys visiting. This week with 10, but they do have a pretty important number of them.
Verm, you and Bobby Carpenter on Tuesday asked Ryan Day a little bit about the way that this month is set up and how much of a grind it may be, how much emphasis they've put on it. Just what do you make of this strategy from Ohio State and the way that they've decided to attack this particular month on the recruiting calendar?
I mean, it's really something that they started doing at the start of the Ryan Day era. The Buckeyes used to, I mean, you recall, used to run their huge official visit weekends in November, right? You have everyone in town for the Michigan game or whatever. Aside from the fact that if you lose that game, like, the entire weekend changes dramatically. You also, in Ryan Day, it's what he acknowledged on Tuesday at Roosters, like, there's not a lot of opportunity for the guys to get to know the coaches in those situations. And that's understandable. You're preparing for the biggest game of your season. You don't have time to, sit in your office for 3 hours a day with 30 different kids. So having the official visits in June, which is really a decision they made, I think it really started in like 2019, has been great. It's paid off for Ohio State. It also helps them really know exactly what the class is going to look like by the end of June. So any adjustments that need to be made, any pivots to second or third tier guys on the list, you have a lot more time to do that when it's set up this way. That being said, when you also have 1, 2, 7, 9, 10 different days of recruiting camps in June, it becomes a very difficult month for the coaches. And, it's actually always impressive to me how they stay in good spirits throughout the month of June. We get to spend more time with the Ohio State coaches in June than we do any other time of the year. And they never seem to be tired of it, which is a testament to who they are and why they're so elite at their jobs. But if you look at next week, we're starting this weekend, right? You're starting today, Friday, with 10 official visitors. Monday and Tuesday, they have their youth camp, which the coaches still work. Wednesday and Thursday, they have their first 2 one-day camps for the high school students. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to official visits. The following Thursday, Friday is back to the camps and visitors. Like, it does not stop. So that June 11th, 12th, 13th, there are camps. Like, it is a crazy month, and they certainly earn their money this month.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's an exciting time for us. Like, you obviously have a lot to do. You stay just as busy as the coaching staff, but I like to go out there and, as you mentioned, like, talk to these guys who are in good spirits and they're getting a chance to coach ball and not a lot of other distractions. They don't have to game plan. They always get into it to make an impact with young people. So I know that they embrace that part, and to see them in their element a little bit and talk to them, and also have a handful of players and catch up on how their summers are going. It does make things feel like we're getting a little bit closer to football. So you can tell May is in the rearview mirror, and I'm excited for June. I know Birmingham is too, and we're going to be excited to bring all of the content on the podcast daily to you with a little bit different stuff throughout the month of June now that it is here. Thanks for making it through May with us. Go ahead, Birm.
I was to say, like, this next month is the most, like, holistic football month of the year. Like, it is just football. And I think that's what the coaches, while they may be exhausted, I think that brings out the best of them, because this is why these guys get into their jobs. Yep. The $10 million a year helps, I guess.
Well, only one of them gets 10, but you can tell that he's enjoying the CEO life. Again,
did you see like the photos of him out paintballing with the guys this week? Like, I mean, it's we've got a whole. He looked like a killer in those pictures. What's he doing?
Yeah. I think he's right now enjoying the current setup at Ohio State, and I think you could tell that on Tuesday. If you missed it, go back and watch. We talked to Ryan Day at Roosters, but a lot more content, of course, coming as the offseason zips along. I am enjoying the opportunity and can't wait for June to come. So, betting lines are out, kickoff times are out, recruiting camps are starting next week. It is a good time to hang out with us, hopefully, on the podcast daily. Hopefully you're making the most of it and enjoying it. If not, we'll try and do even better the next time when we get back on Monday. He's Berm. I'm Austin. We'll see you in June.